Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the FX Market Insight for the 6th of December. All right, now just having a look at the first four major pairs here. Now, the trading session in the North American session was really, there's no equity markets. Obviously, the market's being shut for George H.W. Bush's funeral. So what we found is euros sort of just chopping about, okay? Of course, sterling continued to bang about with Brexit. The Aussie is starting to trickle lower. We had that sort of breakdown, and it's just continued to move lower. There's a little bit of dollar. If you have a look across the board, I mean, Kiwi's just sort of tweaking through a level as well, but with no momentum and a little bit oversold. That's probably stopped it going down. But if I just show you here, you'll see there's a bit of a glitch down in a few of these pairs. That was the dollar CAD rallying through the roof as the on the Bank of Canada. Now, if I just show you the page up here. All right, so you've got the dollar CAD, as you can see, absolutely mental. Let me just get that drawing thing on. So we've seen it pop through one sort of 32.90. It's gone up to 134, the figure, or 99. A massive move to the top side. Now, this dominated all trading. So you've got dollar indexes trading sideways, dollar Swiss, a little bit of a false break on the top side here, going with that dollar CAD move. And dollar yen sort of just pretty much cruising, look like slightly up on the hourlies, but pretty much sideways. But this move in dollar CAD is well worth a closer look, because what it was is inflation in Canada is at 2.4%. Now, I know the Bank of Canada has got an inflation band at 2%. Plus or minus 1%. Now, that's a pretty broad range, but basically above 2%, they should be looking to raise rates. They came out in their statement and basically said they expect inflation to fall from here, like the 2.4% in October. We expect it to be a lot lower in the future, right? This is a complete denial of inflation. It's a completely unexpected event. So that's why you see this crazy move, and they have signaled basically that they're on hold, right? So what they've gone back from being in a hawkish situation to neutral, but because they were sort of hawkish, and this is sort of like a bearish move, it's almost like they've gone dovish. That's the reaction. That's why we saw such a big move. Now, the market has been caught long, and it's now just drifting lower. And this is going to be quite interesting tomorrow, because we have a very interesting series of events tomorrow. And if I just take you up here to the main page, if you have a look at the sort of upcoming numbers now, where the action is going to be, right, I just actually, sorry, just one sec. Let me just move the data up a touch. I'll just get that cursor up. Okay, just looking at where the action is going to be on the numbers. Now, this isn't going to be a number, right? And don't forget, dollar CAD is sort of pretty clear bullish momentum, but it's in the middle of nowhere. Now, as we go through the Asian session, we do have a couple of Japanese numbers. I wouldn't worry about those. The Aussie retail sales figures, definitely worth it. Have a look. The trade balance is also coming into play as well, but the retail sales will be the key release, and Aussie's drifting lower. So a weak number here is going to give us a nice trade to the downside through that next trend line. All right, now coming into the European session, German industrial orders, definitely worth a look, especially with euros sort of floating about the place. Then you come into the North American session, you've got those sort of weekly jobless claims numbers. Now, I don't really rate these as massively high impact. They are a weekly number. There's usually not that much variance, but there are a bunch of peripheral numbers coming out of the US. So just keep an eye on that. It could come into play. The market will be, the equity markets will be back open. So if we start to get some movement in those numbers, we could see the dollar come back into play again. All right, so then you come down to the rest of the numbers, and you're wondering what I'm talking about. Now, the event tomorrow is usually done on the same day. And what I'm talking about is it's the speech by the central bank governor on what's going on. Now, where's that pen? Sorry, let me just get that on. Now, you've got down here, up here, Bank of Canada Governor Stephen Poloz delivering a speech about the central bank's interest rate decision. They must have already preempted this crazy outcome. Now he has to explain why he's actually brushed all fundamentals, why they think inflation's lower before they lose all credibility. This is going to be a huge event, and we could see dollar CAD see a big correction. We could see it kick into gear. So going forward, we have some really big things coming out. Now, at the same time, I mean, I have sort of made a mess of the picture there. There are a couple of key central bank speakers tomorrow. Okay, you got Andrew Hauser out of the Bank of England, the Deputy Governor in the RBA speaking, and then there's the Deputy Governor of Bank of England speaking there as well. But the Polos thing, the Canadian thing, is the big one, because that goes with what the biggest move was in the markets today, which is dollar CAD. As I mentioned, this is like it's left field stuff. This is so idiotic from the central bank. He's going to have a pretty good explanation as to why they didn't do anything. So this move here may look simple. It was unexpected. The liquidity was actually there, and it just moved the whole way. But that trade's now over, so don't get overly excited when you do come back to look at the trading opportunity. Now, just having a look at there's not much to look at on this page, on the dollar page, as I sort of call it. The equity markets, right, they were shut today, right? Because of that, you won't see any major moves or direction from the equity markets. We've got the economic data, of course, coming out. The dollar index, no major moves as well, with the pressure coming from the equities. And the dollar yuan, the offshore yuan, no major movement here. It's sort of corrected after the trade deal was done. Trump hasn't confirmed anything about a deal, so we've got to wait for that to come out to get that movement in dollar yuan. Right? It's at the moment, it's just sort of sitting there like a sitting duck. Okay, now if you come up to the MyFX Trading Hub, right? So really, sitting over the top of the markets, the trading conditions, we've got Brexit and Trump still there, banging away. So that's something for us to consider. We haven't got great trading conditions because it's all geopolitical and it's random. What we do have, though, we have a pretty good couple of releases coming up. As I said, the Aussie retail sales figures coming out today. We also have, in that North American session, at the very start of the North American session, Polos. This is going to be probably the biggest event over the next 24 hours. And then as you come into Friday, right, we're going to wait for Friday, you've got the US non-farm payrolls coming out with the Canadian employment numbers there as well. All right, so the main thing to focus on is the Bank of Canada Governor. And if I just come down, just to show you the rest of the action here, there's been a couple of bit of changes. Now, I've got the sentiment here. You need to click through into these pages to see what exactly is going on. Now, dollar CAD, the outlook is up. This is purely on the technicals. It's broken hourly, daily, and weekly, which is we're now calling short-term, medium-term, and long-term charts. So technically, this thing's up, but it's a weird event. So tomorrow, that's where Polos is going to come into play. There's no entry levels I can see at the moment in dollar CAD. The Aussie, though, we have Aussie retail sales figures, and it's gone into a mildly bearish sort of phase. And we do have a fundamental driver in the retail sales. So weak retail sales figures will give us a nice trade in the Aussie. That's for sure. The Kiwi, well, short term it's drifting lower, medium term sideways, and long term still up. So that's a mixed bag on the analysis. So that's why the Kiwi, which correlates with the Aussie very closely, is actually just more factored in as sideways because there's not much actually happening just at the moment. All right, so that's where I see the best potential trade here is the Aussie, and that goes with the fundamental drivers that we are due to expect, and that is the Aussie retail sales. So outside of that, I'm really waiting for Polos to be speaking, and this is going to be very interesting. It could be extremely volatile, and that's because, once again, when you come back and look at dollar CAD, it is now in the middle of nowhere, right? This thing could go anywhere, and it will because there's no trend lines. We do have a trend line, but it is miles away, right? It's back here at 132, sort of 85 now. And at the moment, this thing's going to drift around. I would probably expect it to drift down a bit and just start doing this ahead of Polos. If you're long, you're probably going to be scoring up ahead of Polos and then maybe buying afterwards. So we're going to wait and see how that plays out. All right, guys, that's the best I can make of it at the moment. I hope you have a good trade day. You can see me in the live trade zone. Cheerio.